I'm late. Hi, you guys. Took me a few minutes to get set up here. Let's see here. I am looking at my screen and not seeing anything. Okay, here we go. I think. Dory, you didn't miss anything because I haven't done anything yet. I'm working on it. Okay. So, hi, Dory. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Wendy. Okay, I see that we've got some people in here. Yeah. Yay. I'm scattered today, as usual. Nothing new. Um, this is a pretty straightforward, not too difficult pendant. Um, it's a great beginner's project. It Hey Carol, it teaches several different techniques, so uh, that's kind of good to know different things. And this is the pendant right here on a textured oak leaf, which I will explain all this stuff because I know not everybody does this kind of stuff, so it can be confusing. But I'll start right off the bat with the oak leaf was made with a Potter impression, or I'm sorry, Potter pancake die, oak leaf, right here. And if you're not familiar with these, they're pretty nifty little tools, but you need a hydraulic press to use them. Um, I don't really know of any other way that you can get around that. So it takes a certain amount of force to cut through the copper. And basically, what you do is you slip in a piece of copper and then you take it to the press and it uh, presses it down till the shape gets cut and you hear like a loud pop. And you have a piece of copper like this. And what I do before I put my copper in the press is I texture it. And this is a rolling mill plate. This one is also from Potter USA. Uh, also, you can get some great plates from Roberta Peel from Oregon Trail Silver. She sells some really nice plates as well. This one I have that has a skeleton leaf design. And maybe it's not the best for this particular project, but I got it to work. But I do have a little bit of waste with my metal. So what I did was I pressed this in the rolling mill, but the part that I really want is in the center of this piece. So I'm going to have a little bit of waste on the top and on the bottom. However, you can use these for other projects. All your scraps can be turned into other things, pairs of earrings, different little things like that. So it's not really wasted. So, but I like the veining in the center of this particular leaf, which just happens to be in the middle. So, hi, Marlene. So anyway, if you haven't seen the rolling mill, I will show you it. It's behind me. And because I have the camera on my phone, I can't really take it all over the place. I just don't have the fancy equipment to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of 20 gauge plain copper right here, and I'm going to center it where I want it to get those particular veins in the leaves. And then I'm going to put a piece of backing paper. This is like a foam paper. It just helps make the impression become a little bit deeper. So I'm making basically like a little sandwich here. I've got my impression plate, and I've got my copper, and then I've got the little foam backing on here. And then I'm going to put this through the rolling mill, and get my design. Okay, so you can put this in the rolling mill either upright like this or underneath, whatever. I kind of like to just have it on top so I can see what I'm doing. Rolling mill is right behind me, that piece of machinery right there. And hopefully I've got it set right for this. And see it? Put it in the rolling mill, crank the handle, just turn this around like this. That's feeding through in between the rollers, coming out the other side. And I guess I didn't have it set tight enough because that was just a little bit too easy for me to roll around. I didn't get the deep impression that I wanted, but you can see that there is some impression on here. I have a Peppy rolling mill. This is a 190. The model number is 190.00A on it. It's a 6-inch wide roller, which I like a lot. Anyway, this is really not a great impression on this one. So I'm going to use one that I already did, but it's this, that was the process that you see. I should have had my roller set a little bit tighter. It would have come out much better. So that leads me to think, because I had it set for 20 gauge metal before, and I'm thinking that I picked up a piece of 22. I try to mark my metal when I cut it and make sure that I have the right gauge, but that would make the difference between having a good impression and not, because the roller was set for 20 gauge and it would be looser with the 22 gauge since it's thinner. Okay, I hope that's not clear as mud. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Susan. Okay. Oh, off camera. All right, so that's the rolling mill. The hydraulic press is farther away. But I should do that just so you see. I will do that. So I picked out, like I said, I had this piece already roller printed, and I'm going to put it inside and line it up. I'm going to line it up because I'd like as much of the veins of the leaf to show. And if I set it up this way, I think you can see it. That center vein is kind of going right down the center of the leaf. Okay. So this is how the back of it is. When you put your metal in, you don't want to go further than these two little cutouts. These are the older pancake dies. They still have them, but they have these little notches in here that tell you you shouldn't go any further back into that pancake die, or you can get your metal stuck in there, and you don't want that to happen. So I'm going to make sure that that's lined up just the way I want it. And then I'm going to go over to the press. You really won't see exactly what I'm doing, but you'll still see me. And you'll hear it because it makes a loud bang. Okay, so I'm here at the press. And I'm going to put that inside. I suppose that I have another spacer bar that I'm going to put on top. I know this doesn't really tell you a whole lot. I just wanted you to see a little bit of it. And I have a manual press. Boom. So now it's cut through. Fire in the hole. That's right, Patty. So it's cut through, but I have to pop it out of the pancake die. So I'm just going to hit it with my rawhide mallet. And there you have the cutout. And the leaf is still in here. And then now it's on the floor. All right. Okay. So it's cut out, but all the pancake dies have a little tab in here. That's where this part connects to the leaf right here. And I need to trim that off. So I'm going to take some metal shears. Are you guys seeing me okay? Because my computer screen is frozen. The phone's fine, but it looks like I don't know. I just don't get this technology stuff. As long as I've been doing this, it's still weird. Okay, so I'm going to cut off this little tab. I need my eyes on. My extra eyes. And I'm going to just cut that out. You could saw it off if you like working with a jeweler's saw. You could cut that little piece off. But to me, it's much simpler to just trim that off with the metal shears. Now on the back of the shape, it's got a little bit of a burr around the edge, a little bit of a raised edge on the back. And you want to file all of that off. So you can do that either with a belt sander setup, or you can take a file and you can just smooth that excess off of the back. So it's nice and smooth. And that might take a few minutes, okay? If you're doing it by hand. If you take it over to the belt sander, you can make real short work of it. Mask? I'm not sure what you mean, Patricia. I'm glad that you see me okay. Good, good. Thank you. Like wear a mask? You can always wear a mask if you're comfortable when you're filing. If you want to make sure that you don't get any kind of little filings or dust or anything, breathe any of that stuff in there. Okay. I generally don't for this type of work. If I'm doing a lot of, well, when I do it on the belt sander, I should step back because my belt sander is a wet belt sander. So it's not dry where it's throwing out the copper dust. If that were the case, I would wear a mask. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's what you meant. Yeah, it does go in the air. There's no doubt about it. But when I use the wet sander, it just it stops it from migrating in the air. Okay. All right. So just filing this up. And I'm just using a coarse, like nail file, salon board. But you can use jeweler's files as well if you want. But this, for the small amount of burr that's on the back, this seems to do the job pretty quickly and does a good job, I would say. You could also put this on the table and sand that way, but you know, I am just trying to keep everything so that you can see it. What kind of file? I can't remember if I got these through Potter. I think they had a special deal some years back, but you can find, these are just like regular nail files, but it's coarse. And you should be able to find them at a beauty supply house or even on Amazon. They'll have them in different grits. All right. So it just said trying to reconnect on my end. Okay. 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 So there you could see the texture on the leaf is pretty much what I wanted. I could have maybe centered it a bit better. I could have. It should be down the center, but you know, it still looks okay. All right, so now the next step I'm going to do is solder a jump ring on here. And I will position the camera over my soldering board. And I have my little hummingbird holders that I use many times when I solder. They're wonderful to have. Get my flammable stuff out of the way here. And this is the one I just sanded. And I'm going to use paste solder for this. And I have I believe this is an 8mm jump ring, copper jump ring. But the size really, you know, is, I guess if you want it to look just like that one, this is an 8mm. Okay, but you could get away with a smaller one or a larger one. It just really depends on what you want to do. So I'm going to close this jump ring. Close this jump ring as flush as I can. And I'm using a little titanium shim. I've used these before on my soldering projects, so if you've been watching me for a while, you should be familiar with them. And I'm going to put my jump ring. First of all, I have to turn this around. So I'm soldering this on the back side. And I want to put the seam of the jump ring on the stem of the leaf. Right there. And I have some Bench Basics nano paste, silver solder paste, which is fine on copper. It will still be silver, but there's a way around that too. This is easy. And I'm going to squeeze out a little bit of this paste solder on the seam of that jump ring. And place that. I've got the jump ring sitting on my shim just to raise it up just a little bit so it's level with the leaf shape. And then I'm going to put my hummingbird holders on either side of the jump ring to hold it in place, and one on the leaf. It's really probably not going to move this part, but sometimes the ring will shift once you apply the heat to the solder paste. It sometimes shifts a little bit, so I just want to keep that from doing that. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to take my butane torch and warm everything up. Kind of zero in on that jump ring. And there, it's already done. Now, I always keep utility pliers around so I can move these hot objects off. Oops. And you see how simple that was and quick? And now the ring is fired on. Okay. We got a nice heat patina on here too. But if that's going to go bye-bye. Okay, so now I'm going to put this in the pickle. And then we'll clean it up in a little bit. Move all this stuff around. And I've got my pickle jar right here. Okay, and I put that in the pickle to clean up a little bit. Hello to everybody else that's joined. The hummingbird holders, I will put the reference or the resource of where you can get those. It's a gentleman named Eli Gamini. I'm not sure if I say it right. Every time I say it, I'm not sure if I say it right. So, Eli, if you're watching it, I hope you don't cringe when I say your name. I'll put his information. He's on Facebook, and you just message him, and he will give you the information of the sizes and prices and all that stuff of the different hummingbirds that he carries. They're wonderful to have when you're soldering. Keeps things in place. Okay, while that's pickling, we're going to do the enameled bead, okay? So this part is done. It's such a simple, I mean, it's just one solder join that you have to make. That's pretty simple. And then we move on to the next thing. And I just want to say again here on this piece that I cut out, you still have all of this section here and this section here that you can still make something with. So don't consider that like I have to do that whole sheet to get one leaf. It just depends how you want your pattern to look. That's all. But you still can use up the rest of it. All right, so put this to the side. And messy. All right, and now my enameling stuff is over here. And I'm using my hothead torch and a canister of propane. You can either use propane or MAP gas, whichever one you prefer. I have my setup here where I have I'm doing this on I'm doing this as an immersion method, which means I'm going to be dipping a hot bead into a container of enamel powder, and I put my bead on these little mandrels, like so. And where are my beads? Okay. I am using a solid copper bead. Now, I got these from Rio a few years ago. I don't think that they carry them any longer, but you can find them on Etsy. If you just put in a search for a 12 or 14 millimeter solid copper bead, you should be able to find them. And because I know I've gotten different sizes on Etsy before, so you should be able to get them. And the reason I'm saying, actually, this on the package from Rio, it says 12.7 millimeters. So, you know, a few millimeters difference is not going to make a big difference. However, this is a great size for the Acorn bead caps that I have, which we'll talk about in a few minutes too. Okay. So when you do the immersion method, I don't know if you watched my last demo that I did some immersion enameling. These are stainless steel mandrels. This is a Oh, 9/16, I think, mandrel. I'll make sure that the proper size is in the handout. And you want to make sure that it clears the hole, that it's not tight, the bead's not tight on here, because you're going to get enamel stuck to this, and you want to make sure that you can get your bead off. I also have a bead pulling station right here, and these are, this is a wonderful thing to use if you're doing the immersion method. This part fits underneath a ceramic tile or cookie sheet, something like that. And I've got a piece of cement board here that I'm working with as my heat-proof surface. I put a couple of heavy bench blocks on there just so it doesn't move. You don't have to do that, but I kind of like to. And then a little mini bread pan I put on top of that to catch my bead so it doesn't go rolling off the table onto the floor when it's screaming hot. Okay. You need matches and you need your enamel powders. Normally, when I enamel, especially something dark, like a metal like this, I will put a coat or two of white enamel first as a base coat. And especially if I'm going to use a transparent enamel, which I am going to use the olive green, and this is a transparent. So I will put a couple of coats of white on here first. All right. So when I turn the torch on, you're probably not going to hear me because this is just so noisy. Okay. Um, let's see, what can you see here? Here's the torch head. All right. I hope that you can see this all. I may have to reposition this a little bit. Sorry for my hand being in the way. Here's the torch head. Okay, well, we'll just see what happens here. All right. So when I'm right-handed, so I'm going to keep my mandrel with my bead in my right hand, and I'm going to keep my enamel powder in my left hand. I want to work with them in tandem, okay? You also need to light your torch. I just use regular stick matches on here. And like I said, it's very loud, so you probably won't hear me. But what I'm going to do is light the torch, then I'm going to heat the bead up till it glows orange. And then as soon as it glows orange, I'm going to dunk it in the enamel, roll it around, kind of like dredge it like you do with chicken, with, in flour, kind of get it around there. But the timing is quick. You need to get it in there when it's hot. The enamel won't stick to a cold bead. It has to be hot. All right, I'll do this bead and then I'll check any questions that are on there. So I'm going to put 2 coats of white and probably 2 coats of the transparent olive. When you light a hothead torch, you want to make sure that you put the flame right under the lip, the bottom lip of the torch head. Okay, if you put it up too high, the gas is just going to blow it out. It just blows it out. Okay, so we don't want to do that. All right, so I'm going to light my match, turn on the gas. Okay, what I just did is the bead is in here. It's super, super hot, and this solid copper retains the heat for a long time. So resist the impulse to get in there and touch the bead and see how you did, because you will burn yourself badly. Okay, that is just a no-no. And then we'll discuss this when it's cool. What I did with the bead pulling station is I had, before I took the bead off of the mandrel, I had some enamel buildup on the top portion of this mandrel. And the tendency when you go to pull the bead off to release it is that that extra that's on the mandrel can fill in the hole, and you don't want that to happen. So there is a hole. There is a conveniently located hole on the bead pulling station right here, that once you have that bead, that hot bead, and you have that enamel on there, you can stick that mandrel in the hole and push against it so it loosens up that enamel so that you can get it released from the mandrel. But a lot of times, it's not unusual, a lot of times you will get a little bit of enamel trailing off of it, which I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a little bit on that one end, like little threads, and you can crack those off. Once the bead is cool, you can just take some pliers and crack that little bit of enamel off. And especially, you know, when you crack those threads off, if a little bit of enamel comes off around that hole, it's okay on one end because you're going to be putting a bead cap on top of that, so you won't see that. The idea is not to have that happen, but it can happen. So I'm just letting you know that you don't have to feel that your bead is ruined because it has a little missing enamel. You can put it back in the flame and add a little more enamel, roll it around in there, and try to heal that up a little bit. Enamel's a really, it's a fun and kind of, um, I don't know, amazing kind of a technique, because you can have little cracks in your enamel, and if you put it back into the flame gradually, uh, they'll like self-heal. So there's a little trick and stuff to know about it, but it's an amazing technique. So let me check here, because I think I have some questions, but I have to look at my laptop. Okay. Okay, Dory says, I've previously made an oak leaf and a natural leaf skeleton in the rolling mill and then sawed it out for those of you without the hydraulic press and plate. That's exactly right. You can do that. Thanks for sharing that, Dory, because a lot of people just don't know. We can see, and what was that green again? Okay, I was using transparent transparent olive green, and the product number is T as in Tom, 2240. That's transparent. So you always have to put what you don't always have to put, but I don't like how transparent enamel looks on plain copper, so I always put a base coat of white or cream as my first layer, and then add my transparency. But that's not the law. You know, you can goof around with a lot of those things too. Hey, Deb. Oh, I want to go see that movie. Did you like it? I've been waiting for it. It's probably playing now. If it's playing by you, it's probably playing by us too. I just haven't looked, but I do want to see it. Okay, you don't have to have the transparent if you don't want. Lichen the color lichen is actually what I have on this pendant. It's a little bit lighter green. It's a nice color too. So you can do, oh, good. Glad to hear it. So yeah, you can use different. And if you wanted to put a different color acorn, you could do that as well. It's just whatever you want to do. I was trying to make it look relatively authentic, but you know, I can't imitate nature very well. So I did do one in tan. I think it was tan in an opaque, which is nice too. You know, it's a nice color too for an acorn. Or you could do brown, but I didn't really want to do that because I wanted to have some contrast against the back of the dark metal. Okay. All right. So while that bead is cooling, I am going to check on the leaf in the pickle. And let's see here. I didn't get rinse water. Oh, I can rinse it in the water that I had for my enameling. All right. If you don't over uh, solder your piece, you'll have less cleanup. And that's, excuse me just a second. And that's something we should all strive to do, is to work as clean as we can. And it eliminates a lot of extra work. Now, if I was in my area where my sink is, I would take a brass brush to this and clean it up. But I'm not there, so I'm going to just use my portable flex shaft thingy. Put my water someplace where I'm not going to spill it or get crumbs in it. Okay. So I have a little bit of solder cleanup. There's just a tiny bit on the front and there's a little bit on the back. So I'm going to use a knife edge silicone, coarse silicone disc and clean this stuff up. I will wear my mask for this because I do not want to breathe those particles backwards. Deb, L puts the kibosh on a lot of ideas that I have, so I'd give that a hard no. All right, so this is just going to blast that right off. You can do this with hand tools too, hand files, but I don't like to suffer, so this is nice and quick and cleans it up really well. And the knife edge, they get into those small little spaces, so those are nice to have. And I am not going to patina this here because that requires my sink as well. But I'll still assemble it, and then I can disassemble and take care of that later. Okay. I'm just going to polish this up a little bit. You really wouldn't have to do this at this stage because you would be brass brushing this and then putting it in liver of sulfur. But since I'm not doing that, I just want to clean this up a little bit before I assemble it. I'm just using a 3M disc to clean it up. Actually, I should have used a stiffer one first. Much better. Okay, so that's nice and clean. Oh, clean enough for right now. All right. And now I'm going to use a little stake. Now, I have never really done much with metal stakes, and I honestly can say I don't know a whole lot about them, but for the little that I use them, uh, this is just fine. There's different ones, but I just want this rounded edge right here just to kind of manipulate the leaves rather than using a tool like round nose pliers or something like that that can dent your metal. I would rather use something like this. So I'm just going to, just by idea, just kind of bend over one leaf, pull one leaf up, just to give it a little bit of contour, a little shape, give it a little dimension. This you can kind of play around with as much as you want. But I think it makes it more interesting when you move these leaves around a little bit, or the parts of the leaves a little. Like that. Can you see that from there? So that just gives it a little bit of dimension there. Yeah, that's a good idea too, Deb. You know, it's all about like using what you have. You don't necessarily have to go out and buy, like just because I'm using a stake on here doesn't mean you have to use a stake. There's other ways that you can accomplish that. Um, I didn't try it, but you know, the dapping blocks that have the I don't 4 different bowls in there, you could probably do the same thing in that. So it's just I have this stuff handy, so I'm going to use it. So there you go. Okay, so now pretend that I've patinaed this, okay, because that would be the next step is to put this in the patina, clean it with some 4O steel wool, and we're going to put everything together. The bead is done. Okay, it's a nice color. It does have some of that little extra uh, enamel threads on the top, so I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers and just crack that off. It's not a big deal. It's going to be hidden by the bead cap. Now, the bead caps that I'm using, I'm going to turn the camera down here. Bead caps that I'm using that I really like are from Vintage, Vintaj. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that company. And I've got, now I always make lots of spare parts when I've got nothing going on. You know, it's just nice to have these things already ready, prepared. And so I have them. Now, I'm also going to be using some 3mm, two 3mm copper beads. And let me tell you how I did that. Because trying to patina these small little parts like this is a pain in the butt. So a nice thing to do, I'm going to use a head pin because I don't have any wire sitting right here. But an easy thing to do is take a small piece of wire that fits through the holes on the beads. And I would probably fill this whole piece up with beads and then bend it over so the beads can't come out. And then I would stick that in the liver of sulfur, and all the beads are right there, and you can clean them all up at the same time, and you are able to hold on to them. That's the biggest issue when you're trying to patina really small parts like that, is trying to hold on to them and get them clean properly. Okay, so that's just a little tip. But like I said, I would probably use a longer length of wire and then fold that over so they didn't come off. Okay, so to assemble this, I would take one 3mm bead, and I would take my Acorn, and then my bead cap, and then another 3mm bead. Okay, so that will make the Acorn right there. And like I said, I got these from Vintage, and I'm pretty sure you can find these on Etsy. I'm sure you can actually. You can get them, and you can buy them in a bulk pack, or you can buy them, you know, like 4 or 6 or something like that. And they're just really nice. These are the copper finish. These are not solid copper, but these are copper finish, and they also have a brass finish. It's the vintage brass finish, so it's a darker brown. If you can get, I think they call this Artisan's Copper. I think that's their line from Vintage. Tierra Cast also has a bead cap. Now, you know, they've just recently, or they're closing their shop, so you can still find a lot of their products on Etsy as well. And they're nice bead caps, but I prefer the Vintage if I have a choice. Okay, so, and then I've got some little 4mm jump rings here, and I have a few. I'm just going to probably just use 2 or 3 of these 6mm seed beads, and then I've got some 11 what did I say? These are 6O beads, and these are 11O beads. Okay, for just a little, just like a little pop of color on here. Deb says, I've made acorn caps by using round discs that I dome and then use my dimple pliers to make the bumps. And absolutely, yes, you can. You're a clever girl, Deb. Yeah, you can definitely make your own bead caps if you wanted to do that. So, I mean, that's always an option. I just really like the looks of these particular ones. But if you want to do everything yourself, you know, you can certainly make them. So, That's a good point, Deb. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so I am going to, I'll be taking this one apart because I want to put I want the little tiny beads to be patinaed, but for the sake of the demo, I'm just going to close these up and assemble. So let's get my tools out here. I need cutters and a round nose and a chain nose. That's all I need. A round nose and a chain nose. Plier. And so I'm going to put, boy, if you work with steel wool where your tools are, you get all these little fibers of steel wool just attract to your tools. All right, so I'm going to put my pliers right on top of the bead and make a wire wrapped loop. And here again, if you don't know how to do this, I have a demo on YouTube that shows you all the steps, and you can replay it, rewind it as many times as you need to get the technique. If you haven't learned how to do the wire wrap loop, I encourage you to learn because it is such a handy and useful technique to attach so many things sturdily, so that you don't lose things. So I'm going to just wrap this short wire around the loop, and I'm going to wrap it as many times, 2 or 3 times, whatever it takes, till I get right up to that 3mm bead. And then I'm going to snip off the remainder, the little tail. And then I'm going to just kind of push down that little piece of wire that kind of sticks up where you cut it. Just push that down a little bit so that way you don't have any sharp, stabby little pieces. Okay, so that's the acorn. I just think they're as cute as can be. You can make earrings just like this too. I've made lots of earrings. That would actually be a nice set if you made two earrings like this and then had the pendant. I think it would be really, really a cute little set. All right, so I've got my 4mm jump rings. And for the, I want to do my little 6/0 beads here. The 6/0 beads have rather a large hole, too large for the head pin, for the head of the pin not to go through. So what I'll do is, where's my green ones? I'll put a small 11/0 bead on the head pin, then my 6/0, and then another 11/0. And these are just my little dangles that I like to have. I like to put those on a lot of my pieces of jewelry, just to give it a little bit of jingle or whatever. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a dumb word to say, but little movement. A 2-inch head pin is a little overkill for these small things, but that's what I've got, so that's what I'm using. Just wrap that around a couple of times and cut that off, and then smash that little piece that's sticking up very carefully so you don't smash your 11/0 bead, because that is easily done. Okay, so that's one piece, and we'll do another one here. And I'm thinking, a couple people have asked me if I would make kits for these, and I'm thinking maybe I can, as long as I don't have to make a gazillion of them. But what I would do is probably cut the cut the leaves, texture and cut the leaves, and then and cut off that little tab. But then I would leave it for whoever puts the kit together to file or sand the back of it smooth. That would save me a lot of time if I'm doing multiple uh, kits. So that's a thought. If you're someone who would be interested in having a kit, so that if you don't have all these tools and different things, I can do that. All right, so I want one more bead. Just let me know, and then I'll see, find out what a price would be. I don't imagine these would be very expensive, so. Okay. I can't tell you how many things I have wire wrapped in my jewelry making years, but it's been a lot. Many thousands, I would say. Okay, so I've got these three little pieces here, and I am going to connect. Now, when I was trying to figure out how to attach these pieces, I found the easiest way was to just open up a jump ring and put it around the neck of the leaf of the stem and close that. And I hope you don't think that that's weird, but I actually like that option. Okay, and then to that ring that I just put on here, I'm going to add another ring. Okay, and then what did I have? 3 or 4 here? I actually have 3 hanging from the initial ring. And if you like shiny, you might not even want to consider doing the patina on there. It's just a matter of personal preference. Okay, so now this is the third ring, and to this third ring, I'm going to add, well, no, let's back that up. Before I add the third ring, I am going to add the little dingle dangles to the second jump ring. So I've got to back up here. Just open that up, wherever that was. Sometimes I amaze myself and close these so darn tight, and I can't find where I opened them. Okay, so open that up, and I'm going to slip in these 3. Little beads. Close that up. Okay, so those are hanging. And now I'm going to attach the third ring and my acorn. This is attaching to the second jumper. Well, the third, if you want to count it. Yeah, it's the third. And if you don't like where that lays, if you think that that might be hanging down a little bit too far, you can move it up another ring. I think I may do that. This one just seems longer to me. But also another tip is you could, when you're texturing this, when you're texturing your leaf, you could texture it so that this acorn lays in kind of a dip. You know, this one's kind of going up, but I could have made it go down a little bit. I don't know if you can understand that, but that way the acorn would lay in that little area. Maybe I'll do that. I'll just tap this one out a little bit. I will try it. Yeah, I think I'd like that better. Okay, so then you have your little dingle dangles and your acorn. And you can arrange those however you want. I didn't pay too much attention to what I'm doing here. Okay. The only problem that I see with this is that this little attachment is free to move around. Oh, my hair, those glasses don't help. And it could go on the back of it. But once you've got this on and you're wearing it against your body, it's not going to spin around or anything. So it'll stay pretty stationary. So, but that's it. It's not patinaed, but you know, like I said, I'll do this later. But I think it's a cute little pendant, and I think having the addition of the little earrings like that would make a cute little set. So there you go. Any questions? Uh, it's a quick project. You know, you get a little bit of metal work, which is bare minimum with soldering. You get a little bit of enameling, bare minimum there too, and then a little wire wrapping by making a wire wrap loop, bare minimum there too. So it's a pretty quick and easy project. So and like it was, you know, said, you can use your own things. You can cut your own leaves if you have the desire to do that. You can have different shaped leaves. It doesn't have to have all these intricate uh, cuts in between, but you know, there's lots of potential for different projects for something this simple. So good. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I mean it's just fun, and right now is like the appropriate time to be wearing these things, you know. So oh, that one's not decorated. So here's the finished one. So yeah, I mean if you want to do your own, that's great. If you have the tools, if you want a kit, I will make them as long as you don't order a million of them. Um, because I got a lot of other stuff going on in my life, but I'm happy to help you guys if it's something that you like and you want it. So just let me know. And next time, I think I was gonna do the jelly print next time. I've got jelly prints and I've also got the resin ornaments. Let me grab those real quick because I did finish some up because I've been doing a bunch of stuff for my grandson's Christmas holiday show that's coming up next month, and uh, we're going to do a table and try to sell a bunch of this stuff for him. And so I've made some resin ornaments that are just, I think, as cute as can be. And, you know, we'll be doing one of the projects next time and the other one the time after. So we've got time before the holidays. So these are fun. And I did put on the group page about where you can get the silicone ornament molds. You can get those too. And I can't think of anything else at the moment. But I'll let you know. I just wasn't sure what order. I'm going to have my friend Mary come and help me do the demo for the jelly plates because she has had a lot of experience with that. And she could answer your questions far better than I could because I really haven't done it other than that one play day that we had a couple weeks ago at my friend's house. So, but it's a fun project, fun technique, like they all are. All right, so I guess I'm gonna go and I did post on the group page right before the broadcast that I want to try to do a group member spotlight, and I think that that could be fun. So I said on the post, if you haven't seen it, I said on the post that I would feature a different group member once a week and show, what they do and give a little history of themselves. And that way you can get to know our group members amongst ourselves a little bit better and see what they do. And also, I said you could put a link, not them to put a link, but I'll put it on there. If you have a web page, store, or wherever you sell your stuff, if you do, and then we can all share that. And I think it'd be fun. So that's something different, and kind of help self promote amongst our groups in a minimal kind of way. I don't mind other people putting some of their stuff on the group page, but I would say in limited quantities, please, because I have a couple people that post quite often, and I've had to curtail it to once a month because it's just, I want it to be about our group more or less. But it's always fun to learn about other stuff too. So it's kind of a, I don't want to be hard nosed about it, but I'm all for learning. So we'll see. Okay, so I think that's it. And this will be available for replay. It'll also be on YouTube. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would encourage you to do so. And you can see all the demos that I've had for the last 3 years. They're not totally in order, but mostly in order. And they're much more reliable than trying to find them on the Facebook group page. So there's that. And then I'll send out the printout.